you mentioned you were signed to Nujabes.
Hmm.
Um, how did Nujabes act? Because keep in mind, Nujabes was all the way in Japan. Was
Right.
he in New York?
No. Nujabes found. So the way Nujabes discovered me was basically because he's in Tokyo, right?
Right,
He
right.
Tokyo, Japan, and I was going to Pratt Institute. Pratt Institute is a world-renowned art school in Brooklyn, New York.
Mm,
That I went there for a few years before I dropped out when I got my record deal,
mm.
and basically there was a brother named my homie Tomo was from Japan. We would hang out and stuff, you know. And shout out to my man Bisco Smith, who used to go by DJ Biscuit back then. He basically made a mixtape. I hopped on the mixtape, would hang out with Tomo. We would
Dope.
rhyme, do stuff together. And
Yeah.
Tomo was heading back to Japan for the summer. We exchanged numbers. When he gets to Japan, he's working at Nujabes' record store, his first record store, Guinness Records. And while he was there, Nujabes asked him, he was like, man, you know of any dope rappers in New York? Which is a crazy question to
Yeah,
ask
yeah,
anybody.
like
It's New York. So, but yeah,
right.
he was like, yo, you should check out my man Stan, which was hilarious in itself because, I was from Maryland, you know what I mean? But I
Word.
happen to live in New York. And so, man, he played that same mixtape that Bisco had made. And he heard me on there. I think I was rapping on a Medina Green beat. Shout out to
Right.
them.
Word.
It was a joint they had with Mos Def because one of the brothers from Medina Green, him and Mos are brothers.
Mm.
So yeah, man, I was rapping on that joint. Dude heard it. Nujabes heard it, loved it, and was like, man, you got this dude contact. And again, we had just exchanged numbers before he went back, so he gave him my number. And then he just cold called me, bro. Like I didn't. It's important that like I remind people when I tell this story. I'm like, fam, this is still the '90s. No
Right.
one knew who Nujabes was. This is
Yeah.
pre Samurai Champloo and everything else and all the classic records.
Mm.
So I didn't know who it was. I thought it was a joke. I thought
Samurai
somebody was.
Champloo is dope, by the way. Y'all need to get that.
Yeah, if you in the
Yeah.
anime and you love hip hop, it's the quintessential fusion of both. And
Yes, sir.
yeah, but yeah, man. So he called. The rest is kind of history.
True, true. Okay, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So, at that time, like, did you notice like similarities between like Nujabes and Jay Dilla? Or was it like the beats and styles still separate? Or
Nah. I mean, quite frankly, like, I think a lot of what they have in common has more to do with like their birthday, right? They were both born on the same day, same year, in the
interesting?
same month. And so they naturally get that in comparison, and then they both passed away young. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so, but quite frankly, like, I mean, of course, Dilla sampled a lot of jazz. That wasn't the only thing he sampled. And Nujabes also would sample a lot of jazz. But Nujabes sometimes would sample stuff that was maybe a bit more like what's the word? Melancholy, so to
mm,
speak. Like stuff that sometimes felt like sad but beautiful, you know what I mean?
yeah,
And so he kind of went like in terms of what he was sampling, kind of went in different places that we didn't hear Dilla go. However, I don't like when I heard his production when he first sent it to me, like that I didn't get the Dilla vibes and stuff like that. I
got you.
do know that he was a fan of Dilla's work. I don't know if Dilla ever knew who he was, but I did know that, he was well aware of Dilla. I mean, who wasn't for the most part, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, but I wouldn't go as far as to say there were similarities outside of the fact that it was clear that both of those brothers had amazing taste in music,
Yeah,
and they were both like super students of not just the genre they worked in, but in of music in general.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Good similarities. And I don't want to stay on this topic, which I just want to get this out there real quick.
Sure.
People basically say that Nujabes basically, well, some people are saying Nujabes came up with the whole lo-fi
Hmm.
style, and
Right.
then others are saying Jay Dilla was doing it way before no Nujabes actually was known or even involved with the scene like that. So,
Hmm.
who would you say if you had to decide, or how would you basically say that that style was created? Who would you say the originator is?
I mean, it's really like it's not it's so it's important to understand. I think when we talk about this, that it's not like either one of them sat down and was like, I deem this lo-fi. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
Exactly.
It like in a lot of situations, someone else who wasn't them, you know what I mean, heard what they were doing and decided that this thing was this or
Right.
this is that. And so it wasn't something that I believe that they sat, I mean, there was no conversation ever in all the conversations I had with Nujabes where he was like, yeah, I'm this lo-fi sound I'm making. That's something that came later. You know what I mean? It's just like with me and jazz hop, right? Or jazz rap now, what they call it. Like me, Marcus D, and a bunch of other people who was making this sound, we didn't sit around and was just like, yeah, son, we gonna make this jazz hop stuff. We were
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
sampling jazz. You know
Y'all
what I
just
mean?
wanted y'all wanted something that sounded fresh. And it's like,
Yeah.
yo, you know what? Let me go do this because ain't nobody really doing this like that. And then
Right.
boom, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And we, a lot of people, and it wasn't so much that folks weren't doing it at all. It was
Yeah.
more so that we grew up on a particular sound. We were
Yeah.
influenced by that sound, and we were like, how can we take that, make it our own, evolve it some more? And so I say all that to say I don't necessarily look at either one of them as founding it in the traditional sense, as in, yo, I made this thing, I call it this, now here y'all go. I think that what basically happened, there's one of the big influences in lo-fi, is the like a great kind of jumping off point is the anime Samurai Champloo. When
Yeah.
you look at the aesthetic that is built around lo-fi, not just what the music sounds like, but how people even market it, how they what they post with their music. Like it's undeniable that like before that anime, right?
Mhm.
Like you didn't see people posting their beats with clips from anime
Yeah.
or like kind of infusing those two things together like hip hop and anime. It's something that was fairly new around
Mhm.
the time we saw that anime. And then but when you listen to it, like that slowed down sound, in terms of what they're choosing to sample, the type of jazz that they're choosing to sample and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Clearly, Nujabes has some influence on that. But when you listen to the drums, the bass, how the stuff moves, like clearly on that side of things, on the percussion side of things, you know, you can hear Dilla's influence. You can hear the
Yeah.
Dilla time style
Yep.
of production. So that's why I think it's important to give both brothers their flowers in terms of what they were doing. And Dilla obviously was sampling jazz. I mean, you look at Run by Far Side and so many other dope joints like deep cuts on like early Busta records and all of that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
and even of course Tribe. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I I think it's impossible to separate the two when we're talking about lo-fi. They both had influence on it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree with that, man. Because and it's crazy because people want to put labels like, yo, we created this, we created that. But yo, truth be told, even the cats that are making music that you haven't necessarily heard, they're sampling their music and drawing that inspiration from something else. So you
Yeah,
can't really say they started it because they got the influence from somewhere.
a
So
hundred
it's a
percent.
it's a slippery slope. You know what I'm saying? But I do see why people are saying, well, we did this or we did that. People are
Hmm.
basically trying to take ownership,
Yeah,
as with everything. So what can I
yeah,
say, man?
and yeah, and I mean, and it's clear, Look, and I get it, and let's be real about it too. Like, black folks, we are extremely defensive about cultures that we had a hand in creating, as we should be.
Yeah.
You know, I will say one of the things we got to do better with though is that we oftentimes like we create a thing and then we kind of move in a different direction,
Yeah.
and we create things but don't always develop the science or the formal science behind it to
Mhm.
like structure it in a way for it to be taught. We just create dope things and then when that becomes, oh, we create other dope things.
Yo, that's
You know what I
facts
mean?
right there.
And so because we don't develop the science, somebody else from outside of the culture comes along who loves the culture, and because they may be from a more formal background,
Mhm.
they come into play, and they might develop business models around it. They'll
Yeah.
build schools around it. All of these different things. I ain't saying we never do that, but historically we don't always do that.
Yeah.
And but we definitely get mad when we see other folks do that. And so we got to be conscious of the fact that, like, yo, if we're serious about preserving the history and protecting these things, then yo, this whole like we made this and now it's old. Yeah, nah, we ain't doing that no more. Blah blah blah. We move on. So when somebody else pick it up, stop being mad, fam. You know what I'm saying? So me, I've made my whole career off of the fact that I didn't abandon the foundation that helped me get to where I was.
Mm.
So I take that sound and I continue to develop it, and I continue to honor the folks that came before, and I don't get caught up in this. I don't know if we can curse or not, but I
Yeah.
don't.
Knock
Yeah,
yourself out, man.
yeah, but I don't get caught up in this whole what's relevant bullshit anymore or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, dude, this is a part of our foundation. I'm a forever, hold on to a piece of that while still trying to find a way to take it forward. So I think that as lo-fi, because nobody really cared in the beginning, but when it
Yeah.
became a viable thing and people start making whole careers around it,
Yep.
labels start being built around it,
Yep.
all of a sudden now we care. And it's just like, yo, like that ain't how it worked, fam. That ain't how it worked. Like when me and the homies who were part of the foundation of this being built, when we realized what was happening, we saw it was like, yo, this is an opportunity for us. I mean, to just keep doing what we've been doing. Because you say you like this thing, hey man, we helped lay foundation for this. Here we are. And when we talk about Dilla, it's important that if we're gonna talk about Dilla, important, like then you got to talk about Pete Rock, right?
Yep.
And if you're gonna talk about Pete Rock, you got to talk about Marley Marl. So for folks who on that shit, like, yo, miss me with all that, fam. Cause it's just like you talking about folks not giving a person credit, but then you ain't even crediting the people who helped that man get to where he was. You feel me? Or
Yeah.
and how you talk about Dilla without talking about Q-Tip. Q-Tip, the reason
Oh,
why you know who Dilla is, fam.
facts, yo.
Stop it. Stop it.
Yo, facts.
Stop that shit, man. Yo,
Yo, 100%.
read
100%.
a book, learn about the culture you claim you rep. You know what I mean? So like, man.
Hey, man. Yeah, I agree with all that, man. So listen, that is facts.